Okay, this is the final video in this 10 video series looking at the look pre-scene for the strategic case study. And in this final video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most likely issues that are going to come up in the exam. Now, I've produced this list now for the last few years, and normally these 10 issues have been very closely matched what's in the real exam, particularly the top 5 or 6. And so I'm hoping that I've predicted well again. I can't guarantee you that I have, but I'm hoping that I have. Certainly, the last sitting it was almost spot on. It was fantastic. So hopefully, what we'll find is that the issues that are that I'm predicting in this video will be the ones that will come up in the exam. And what that means for you is that these are the key issues for you to be prepared for you to work on. Okay, so let's talk about what you do with these issues. So firstly, where do I get my basis of my choice from? The first is, without doubt, the most important is the focus in the pre-scene. How important is something to that pre-scene? So it's that degree of importance. How much space is devoted to it? And actually, the other thing that's on there is how many times does it get mentioned? What you tend to see are the ones that come up in the exam tended to have been mentioned 2 or 3 times in the pre-scene. It's almost as if the examiner's kind of got it in mind and is preempting that in a number of places. And so I've spotted quite a few of those, and I'm going to share those with you. The next is just the strategic importance. How important is something from the SWOT point of view and the strategic analysis point of view, and from a founder's point of view, what do they think is most important? After all, we're going to end up writing to the board, and so therefore we've got to focus on issues relevant to them. And then finally, I've used my experience. Over the years, I've seen lots and lots of past exams, the type of typical issues, and I've written mock after mock after mock over the years, and so I know what's easy to write a mock question on and what's not. And do you know what? That's surprisingly important, because when you're writing questions, it's sometimes, well, okay, I'd write a question on this, okay, well, what should I write a question on? And certain ideas come based on certain types of issues, and it's that knowledge of that I want to share with you in terms of, well, therefore it's something that's more likely to come up. Okay, and one thing I will say about my experience, of course, this is the first strategic case study under the new syllabus, and so I'm sort of basing my experience on the past case studies under the previous syllabus. I have adapted that a little bit to try and base it a little bit more on F3, E3, P3, as opposed to kind of one final level case study as it was before that was after those levels. So I have adapted that a little bit, and I've brought in, to be fair, I've brought in a few more F3 and P3 issues. Used to be that the old T4 case study was very E3 based, so I've tried to broaden that out a little bit. But until we've seen a few of these, it's hard for us to know exactly what will come up in the exams based on past exams. But I'm still hoping that my experience from the past will help to predict quite accurately what is going to come up. What do you do with these issues then? Okay, I'll go through them all in a minute, but what do you do? So first thing you do is prepare the key models. For those of you who were just watching my previous video and you've moved on to this one, you've seen my analysis of all the key models. You need to understand those and be able to use those in the exam. You should try and practice mock exams that cover these issues so that you've thought about them and you've applied them in the real exam scenario using an exam system similar to the one that Pearson VUE use for the CIMA exams. Good to find out what real life companies are doing. In our case, of course, this is primarily Google. Because if you can say, okay, there's an issue on ethics, for instance, and it's ethics over privacy, and then you go and see what Google has done about privacy, and then what comes up on the exam is a privacy issue, you're quite safe to say, to make conclusions that would be similar to what a big real life company like that. I mean, who are we to criticize what a huge company like Google would say and what they did? And so therefore, to make conclusions similar to them is very useful. So useful to have done that industry analysis. Of course, we have done an industry analysis of Google and applied it to Look, so you can buy that and read through that. If you're on our course, you can just access that. So do look at that. Really useful to you. Learn the typical key points, the advantages and disadvantages of a particular area or idea, and be prepared for which models to use. So be prepared to think, oh, what did I use? Mendelow's matrix here, pest analysis here, or whatever. And I'm going to tell you as I go through what models I think you should be thinking of for different types of issues. Let's get straight into them then, and let's go to my issue 10, my least important, but still very important, but least important of my top issues. I have to say I had more than 10 issues. So I had a couple more issues on top of this that I had to abandon because I was only going to give you my top 10. So certainly this one I think is reasonably likely. And these are political issues. You probably, my guess is, it will be one country. They'll say country B. And country B have got, their government have just done this or they've just done that. Probably to do with restrictions on search, a bit like China did, or something to do with freedom of information or access to data. Something along those lines would be my guess. And then you'll be asked to comment on it, possibly from an ethical point of view. You'll notice down the bottom I've got the kind of ethical rights and wrongs, and you need to kind of revise the ethics of freedom of information and so on. You might be able to use the CIMA ethical code as a possible model. Okay, there might be some specifics to we have to invest some money or we have to do this or do that. So there might be some other idea based around going into that country and the politics of building bridges with the government and so on. Okay, I just think this is the basis of my choice. This has been a big issue over the last year, big in the press. I mean, actually, since the exams would have been written, it's been huge, of course, because of what happened in France and the terrorism recently. But generally in the unseen as well, data privacy has been very important. And this is one way I think I can see that being examined. So make sure you talk about the importance of government relations, abiding by law, ethics. You could bring in the political and legal side of the pastel analysis. And don't forget to put the government in as a keep satisfied stakeholder in Mendeley. You can refer to Mendeley. And remember, even if you're not specifically asked about a model, do use the models as much as possible because there's technical marks going, 25 technical marks for model use. So you've got to get those models being used. No technical side, no technical marks. And so this is where the models are really important that you bring them in. Let's look at issue 9. Now, issue 9 is some kind of HR issue related to the skilled programmers. I just think this is in the pre-seen 2 or 3 times and was a specific weakness mentioned. And I just think it's kind of odd. They did a really very short SWOT of kind of 2 points each. And one of them was, well, dependence on skilled programmers. I can see so many more bigger weaknesses in this case. Why would the examiner be just telling us about that one that's relatively minor unless that was going to be in the exam or in one of the exams? Remember, I've said this before, but remember there's 5 exams, Tuesday through to Saturday. Guaranteed to be in one of them, I would say, that issue on skilled programmers. And so the issue, points to raise is that programmers are a critical success factor, key to business success, that HR is generally strong. Don't necessarily, if they're maybe threatening to go on strike, probably unlikely, but if they are, or they're threatening some kind of action, or they want more pay, where Look is a very attractive company. It may be that we could recruit new programmers or develop training schemes to actually bring other programmers in-house. Those are quite possible. You don't necessarily have to give in given the strength of HR generally, but see what comes up in the unseen to help you decide which way to go. Okay, I will tell you that in the old T4 case study, HR issues were really common. Examiners love them. I expect that to continue. So if you have got a one-off project, should we invest in training of programmers? Could be the kind of example. Then you should probably use a SAF analysis. Suitability, acceptability, feasibility, because you get a bit of technical in there in a nice, easy way. And of course, you can mention that it's overcoming one of the key weaknesses in the SWOT analysis as well. That's my issue 9. Okay, and if you're watching the free sample of this this video series on YouTube, then that's it actually. This is just the sample. I'm just giving you my top 2 and leaving you in suspense on the remaining 8 in the hope that you think, yeah, that was kind of useful. It is probably worth my while going and seeing what Nick's other 8 issues are. And for that matter, also buying the other 9 videos, which is all part of one series, so you kind of got to have them all, where I analyse the pre-scene in depth. You know, we're talking about, I haven't added it up yet because I've only just finished recording all of these actually as I speak, but it's probably around about 4 or 5 hours worth. The strategic analysis video alone was 1 hour and 20 minutes, going through all the models and giving you background to the models. And what I'll do in the other videos is I go through the pre-scene section by section by section, explaining what I think that means for the exam, for the company, for how it will become examined. And I use my 10 years of experience on case studies to really help support you through the pre-scene. So hopefully you'll think that's useful, and I will see you on all the other videos. Don't forget all the mock exams, really critical to you passing the exam as well. We've got mock exams available for the look pre-scene. So go on to astranti.com. You'll find all the details of all of our products, all of our support for this exam on there. Yeah, good luck in the exam.